What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about all the times in my fitness journey where I went wrong so that you can go right and hopefully mitigate any frustration that you may be experiencing, because usually frustration paired with a lack of knowledge is the reason as to why so many people give up on their fitness journey. So if there's anything that I can do to make you feel less frustration, I will do so. In this video, I'm going to talk about all the things that I fucked up, all the mistakes that I made, and also tell you what I would have done or what you should do if you relating to me or maybe experiencing some of those things. I'm going to go into 3 different categories of all the aspects where I essentially fuck shit up. So without further ado, let me remind y'all to do hard things, do the things that you say you will, have the courage to be uncomfortable, and don't give a shit what anyone says about you. Let's go ahead and get right into the video. So let's go ahead and navigate over here to this chart that I made for us today. These are going to be the 3 aspects or kind of like avenues where I fucked up on my fitness journey and ultimately caused myself a lot of unnecessary frustration simply because I didn't know what the hell was going on, didn't know what I was doing. With all that being said, the 3 different aspects I'm going to be touching on today revolve around mindset, approach, and practical implementation. So we're going to talk about the different ways that you can think to ultimately get you there faster and the different perspective or mindset shift that you have to have that'll make the journey easier for you so you're less likely to give up. Then we'll go ahead and get into the approach that I took and how you can kind of optimize your approach and make it better, because obviously mine didn't work, which is why I'm putting it in the video. So hopefully if you resonate with the things that didn't work, you can implement what I did so then it will work and then you can get there faster. Lastly, we will get into the actual practical implementation of things. So the way that I used to structure training, cardio, and nutrition, why I used to do it. And hopefully if you do resonate with those things, you can implement what I tell you to do afterwards or how I would do it now. So the first thing I want to talk about is mindset. Again, all these aspects that I'm talking about on the fitness journey kind of go in synergy together. A lot of the times when things aren't working, it's because something is off and it's affecting all the other things. A lot of us think that it's one thing or another, but in reality, everything has to be working properly for us to get there as efficiently as possible, right? Again, it's not impossible to get where you're trying to go if things are off or anything like that. But like I said at the beginning of the video, frustration paired with a lack of knowledge makes you want to quit. So we want to minimize frustration. We do that through using efficient methods to get there. So when looking at mindset, the first thing that I want to discuss is relationships. So this is very broad. This is going to be a huge part of your mindset, but it's going to kind of apply to different things. So a lot of us think of relationships with other people and romantic relationships, platonic relationships, all that kind of stuff, but it's also the relationship with yourself. So the mindset that I had at the time when it came to these relationships, I had a very negative relationship with myself, very insecure, and that was a lot of the driving factor behind the reason as to why I did things. So I had a negative relationship with myself, with the scale, with food, and ultimately with the gym as well. So there was a lot of negativity in my personal relationship with me, as well as kind of surrounding myself with people that probably weren't the best influence and maybe weren't rooting for me or supporting me the way that I thought they would. A lot of us are friends with our biggest haters, and they aren't actually, supporting us or rooting for us. They're sometimes in competition with us or maybe even preying on our downfall, but we don't cut them off for whatever reason. That's a whole nother video we're going to get into later on. But being cognizant of your relationship with yourself and others is something that's very important because it affects your mindset and the way you think. If you're around negative people, if you think negatively towards yourself, obviously you're going to not be happy. It's going to be a lot more frustrating. You're going to have trouble moving forward, especially when things get hard, because you already have so much negativity in your mind. I used to think that I could maintain these relationships and they were like separate from other things in my life, kind of piggybacking off of what I just said about synergy and how everything kind of has to work and coincide together. That also goes with your life. You can't have like this really negative or toxic relationship with yourself, with a friend, or in a relationship that's romantic, and also expect other aspects of your life to, be as good as they could have been. They can still be good and you can try to keep them separated. But when talking about efficiency, synergy is key. So if you're going to try to separate the positive parts of your life and then also maintain these negative relationships because you don't have the confidence or courage or whatever to leave them, you're going to be inevitably facing a lot more resistance and it's going to be a lot more work. So you'd be better off at being very careful about who you allow yourself to get into relationships with, who you allow into your life, and who you surround yourself with, as well as maintaining a positive relationship with yourself. Because ultimately, as negative as you can be towards yourself, you can also be very positive and uplifting if you try and make that mindset shift. So now when it comes to the relationship with myself, what I would do now is face those negative emotions or whatever it is that's making me have that negative relationship with myself and work towards healing that instead of letting it just linger and kind of run from it and not acknowledge it. But I didn't think about it. I thought that I was doing myself good by being like really motivational, but in a negative way, like you suck, like get the fuck up, what the fuck are you doing? I can still hold myself accountable and be harsh without necessarily having to degrade myself. As far as relationships with other people, now when I notice a sign of a relationship derailing me from my goals, draining me of energy that I would use towards my goals, or not promoting me towards wherever I'm trying to go and not being a positive force in my life, immediately cut off, immediately ended, done. I'm very careful about who I let into my circle, who I let around me, and who I associate myself with, as well as surrounding myself with people who are better than me, people who want to grow, people who are ambitious, because naturally, if you're around them, you're going to be just like them eventually. Next up, when it came to my mindset, was my perspective. I was soft. I won't even lie. I was very soft. I was like, oh, poor me, the victim mentality. Like, that's not my fault. You know, when you accept that everything's your fucking responsibility, even if it truly may not be, you will start to get places and you will start to get shit done. I didn't understand how to be successful. I didn't know what it took. So I would just be like, oh, well, they're just different from me. Like, this is just in my genetics to be overweight. Like, this is just how I'm built. Or, they just have something about them that made them successful in that business or in that endeavor, and that I can't achieve it or I can't attain it. So I kind of confined myself to this box because I told myself that I couldn't do it. So I was kind of like trying to make myself comfortable by just telling myself, oh, it's not that you suck, it's just you're not capable. Like, it's not that you are bad at, it's not that you eat too much, or it's not that you have an actual issue with your eating habits, or maybe you're very sedentary. That's not the issue. It's just how you were born. Like, it's just genetics, right? And I would say that in a way of comforting myself. I thought, like I said, I thought other people were just special, and I was just like the victim mindset, oh, poor me. When in reality, if I wanted shit to happen, I had to make it happen. So switching my perspective from being the victim, from always making excuses, from having that mindset where I just wasn't meant to have it and other people are different and they were just born with the circumstances or the opportunities to have what it is that I wanted. Switching my mindset from that to realizing that everything is my responsibility. I'm the only person who can make it happen, because realistically, I'm the only one that's in the way of where I want to be. And it isn't anyone else's problem to get me where I want to be. Like, I can sit here and play the victim, but who is going to come and save me? Nobody, because it's not their fucking problem. It's not their life. Like, take accountability for your life. If you want to get yourself somewhere, you're the only one who can do it. I had to kind of adopt that mentality instead of all those other essentially excuses that I was making to kind of comfort myself that I wasn't where I wanted to be. Nothing's going to change if nothing changes. The life around you and the life that you probably are complaining about that you don't like is not going to magically like disappear one day and transform into what it is that you're looking for. The goals that you want, everything that you're trying to achieve, needs to be worked at every single day. It's not just, oh, like, I hope to get here. You have this goal and you hope to get there. How the fuck are you going to get there, right? You're the only person who can do it. So just switching my perspective from being like hopeful, like, oh, I hope this happens. Well, I mean, what do you mean you hope this happens? The only way it's going to happen is if you get up and do shit. Like, it's not just going to magically fucking appear one day. Like, you have to do something. Even if things aren't my fault, I'm going to make them my fault because I want to get where I want to go. And if those things are in the way, regardless of whose fault they are, I need to address them. So now we're going to talk about emotions and feelings. A lot of the times at the beginning of my fitness journey, I let emotions and feelings kind of drive my decisions. You need to let the goals that you have in a month, in a year, in 10 years dictate what your actions are going to be every single day. Not the way that you feel, not your emotions, not the anger, not the stress, not all that shit does not matter. It matters, and it's important for you to learn from it, process it, feel it, but your actions every day should be dictated by what your goals are. If you cannot adopt that mentality, if you cannot do that, if you cannot address your emotions and feelings, you are never going to get anywhere. You're not going to be able to do the training and nutrition part of the fitness journey because you can't even get through being sad. Feel it, face it, stop running from it, accept it for what it is. I know that it's scary, but again, do the hard shit that you avoid. Do the scary things, do the uncomfortable things, do that shit because everything you've ever wanted lies right there. Guys, face the hard things. That is what's going to get you the results that you want. A lot of the times when I'm working with my clients, we're not even talking about fitness or nutrition. Like 70% of the time, we're talking about fitness and nutrition. The other 30%, we're talking about navigating emotions, feelings. What made you do this? Why did you do this? And usually the answer of why they went off track or why they couldn't adhere to whatever it is I had asked them to do or whatever it is they knew that needed to be done was because of something that happened that caused an emotion in their life. So something occurred that day and it made them feel stressed, angry, sad, whatever the hell it was. And then it led them to make those decisions or those poor decisions because they couldn't sit there and figure it out, or they tried to comfort themselves in the moment instead of sitting there and facing it. And I'm not saying comforting yourself is wrong. If you're comforting yourself with a binge or with skipping the gym and it's taking you off track from your goals, that's your form of comfort. It's going to make your journey a lot slower and it's going to derail you. It's okay for your form of comfort to be something that doesn't take you off track. So taking a walk, journaling, freaking diaphragmatic breathing. I say this in a lot of videos. I know it's hard to implement those things. The hard shit is what needs to be done to transform you and your physique, your life, whatever the hell it is that you're chasing, guys. That's what I spend a lot of my time doing with my clients, is helping them understand this mindset shift. So I would feel frustrated because of my physique. So I'd put myself in this really insane deficit, or I would feel really insecure because I was overweight, so I would overtrain and undereat. I don't think I need to explain why that doesn't work. That's obviously not the way that you should go about things, but because of all the insecurities and the frustration and the sadness that I was feeling and the anger I was feeling around my body and the way that I looked and where I was at in my life, I let that dictate the decisions that I made, which were almost like a quick fix that I was trying to do by overtraining and undereating because of that frustration. So now when it comes to my emotions and feelings, I feel them, I sit with them, I try to understand what they're trying to teach me, what I'm learning from them, and navigating them better and not letting them dictate my actions, as well as knowing what positive forms of comfort help me the most. What that looks like for me is going to be listening to music or diaphragmatic breathing. So taking a couple deep breaths and being really mindful of where I am, where my feet are, what I'm doing, really helps me process those emotions and kind of negates some anxiety, as well as listening to my favorite music. I love music, and listening to it really puts me at ease, helps me get through those emotions that are tough. Previously, though, I would binge, I would drink, I would smoke, I would skip the gym, I would rot in bed all day, I would doom scroll. Lastly, when it comes to mindset is motivation, discipline, and consistency. So I lacked all of these three things naturally because not many people are born with them, obviously. If you had these things, you probably wouldn't be watching this video, because someone who's motivated, disciplined, and consistent doesn't have the problems that I used to face or the problems that maybe you're facing right now. So motivation and discipline go hand in hand. Of course, at the beginning of everything, when you're excited, when you're positive, when you're happy, when you have energy, you're very motivated. But you still need to show up every single day, regardless of if you have those things. So that's when discipline will come in and keep you going every single time you feel that lack of motivation. I didn't have much motivation, but when I did, of course, I utilized it. But when I lacked that motivation, didn't have much discipline either, so I was very inconsistent. Now, one thing that you're gonna have to understand is that you're not gonna be motivated, you're not gonna be disciplined, and you're not gonna be consistent, especially at the beginning. A lot of us start the journey and we want to just be perfect, when in reality, if we were perfect, we wouldn't be on any fucking journey because we would be perfect. We'd already be there. The main thing that I want to tell you guys with this was when I struggled with any of the motivation, discipline, consistency, whatever, I really beat myself up and I was very negative, and I let one mistake spiral into way too damn many. Next thing you know, I was on track for a week and I had undone all the progress I did. I want to tell you guys right now, all those times where you win, or those days where you're really good, or when you are successful, yeah, that takes you one step closer to your goals. But usually when we fail or we make a mistake or we fuck up, when our mindset is negative, those three things that would normally take us one step back from our goals tend to spiral and take us 10 steps back. And next thing you know, we're further behind the starting line because we have a negative mindset or just an improper, inefficient mindset. So knowing that you're not going to be motivated or disciplined or consistent at the beginning, just being aware of the fact that you don't have those principles yet, because if you did, you'd be there, and giving yourself grace when it came to the times that you failed, so that you didn't spiral into further failures or failing even more or falling even further. What I would do now is use those mistakes or all those times that I fell off to my advantage, and actually unpack the reasons as to why I was lacking motivation, discipline, and consistency. Because I guarantee you, if you look at the days where you weren't very disciplined or you went off track and you try to figure out the why, you can make the instances in which those occur less frequent, therefore causing you less friction, and you'll get there more efficiently, right? So if there's one day where I skipped the gym and I just couldn't get myself to go, I would sit there and be like, okay, why? Instead of just beating myself up about it because I was so upset that I missed, but rather being like, okay, why did this happen today? What was going on with me? Why wasn't I disciplined? A lot of the times we self-sabotage because we're trying to comfort ourselves in a way. And then consistency comes when you see more results. It's very hard to be consistent because you're literally working towards a goal that you can't even see yet, or you don't even know what's going to happen. Being cognizant of that is another thing that I would implement now. So when talking about the principles of motivation, discipline, and consistency, now I'm aware that those things are built over time and I cannot expect myself to be perfect. And beating myself up because I'm not those things is only derailing me from my journey, because it leads to making one mistake turn into way more. Instead of just sitting there and accepting that I made the mistake, taking that shit on the chin and moving forward and learning from it. And let me tell you one thing with motivation, discipline, and consistency. When you are faced with a decision, you cannot decide what to do, whether it be going to the gym or if you should skip or if you should rest. 9 times out of 10, you know what the answer is. So when you're trying to decide whether you should do this or that, really sit there and look at it, because 9 times out of 10, you do know what to do. You're just trying to fucking avoid it. Some things that you can do now to strengthen your levels of motivation, discipline, and consistency are choose to do hard things, choose to make yourself suffer, because that is what strengthens those principles. I know that strengthens my willpower and will ultimately lead to me being more successful. So I make the decision anyway. And I literally sometimes have to fight myself to do it, but I know that it's making me better. Okay, next up, we're going to get into the approach I took to training, nutrition, and a couple other aspects. So when it came to training, I had a very negative approach centered around how I structured what I was going to do. I used the gym as almost punishment because I had such a negative relationship with myself. So when I thought of training, I had a negative association with it because I was almost fueled by like self-loathing or like not liking my physique. So of course, it wasn't a positive environment. There was no positive reinforcement. It was a lot of negativity surrounding training. So instead of doing training as a tool that was going to help craft my dream physique, I was looking at it as I need to do this because I fucking suck or because I look like shit. And that is only sustainable for so long. Like that whole self-loathing arc is really only sustainable for so long because it fosters a lot of negative emotions that ultimately we will succumb to and fall into our old patterns, whether it be binging, any other form of self-sabotage, whatever it may be. It's not going to get you to your dream physique. Now, when it comes to training, I implement a much more positive environment of moving my body to not only look better, but perform better and be more functional. That when I have a family or when I have children, I can be as present and as active as possible with them. So just having a lot of positive reinforcement surrounding training instead of almost degrading myself and berating myself because I was so unhappy with my food. Same thing kind of goes for nutrition. Again, tying back to that negative relationship I had with myself, with the scale, and with food, obviously it led to a very negative approach to nutrition. This was a very restrictive approach that almost made me feel like I had to fight against food to get where I wanted to go. I was literally almost terrified of food, guys. Like I was overthinking everything, got anxiety from it. I couldn't figure out what to do. Like it was so overwhelming because there was so much information that I was digesting online about nutrition, training, and my fitness journey. Because of course, I'm navigating this by myself. I'm trying to figure out what's right, what's bullshit, what's not. And all that information being thrown at me with the frustration I was feeling from not liking my physique and struggling with insecurities and stuff like that was just almost like a disaster waiting to fucking happen. Like it was like a ticking time bomb. The negative approach I took to food led to a lot of binging because of all the restriction. I would like set a nutrition structure for the day or have a caloric goal or something like that. And I would almost aim to undereat because of that negative mindset I had with myself in the scale. So let's say that I was going to eat like 1,800 calories a day or something like that. And I would be like, okay, like today I'm going to try to do 15, but if I have to go to 18, okay. And like, I know that a lot of you guys struggle with that. I've had clients that tried to do that before. And so a lot of the things that we have to work on specifically together when a client has encountered a situation like that is healing that relationship with food and all the other negative things they might be thinking about themselves or any other aspect of the fitness journey that's making them think that they have to restrict food and nutrition and fight against it to get where they're trying to go. So me going through that myself and being on both sides of things, the person who suffered as well as the person kind of coaching people through it, really gave me a good understanding as to how to navigate out of it. Because I not only saw myself go through it, but also coached other people through it and watched them succeed and heal that relationship. And kind of touched on how I used to fall into cycles of binging due to all the restriction I had in my nutrition that was fueled by the frustration that I was feeling and the insecurities that I was facing. Because of this binging, I would go through cycles of restriction and ultimately, I would restrict myself into fucking misery and eventually I'd crack, right? Because I was binging, I would bounce between periods of cutting and bulking, but would never stick to one. So I would never see those results. Right? I never got a good outcome of either one because I never stuck to it. I would tell myself that I was bulking to make myself feel better about binging because I just wanted to eat when I was hungry due to being so restrictive. So now when it comes to nutrition, I will look at food as my friend, as a tool that can get me there faster if I optimize everything correctly. And I use it to fuel my body and make myself feel better instead of fearing it and hating it, looking at it as the enemy, as something that I need to fight against, but almost looking at it as similar to training, how both of those things, when utilized properly, can get me to my dream physique efficiently. A couple of things that I want to touch on when it comes to like all the other aspects of your fitness journey are going to be sleep, rest, and recovery. I was very much in the grind mentality because I wanted to see results so quickly, and I was really, really unhappy with where I was with my physique and my mindset, that I really wanted to essentially overwork myself. And I thought that when I was resting, I was just a failure. Like I had a very negative association with rest as well. I thought that I could never rest because I was so worried that I wasn't on track to get my goals that I didn't think that I could take a break and I didn't think that I could take a breath. So I always was trying to do something. This also kind of goes with my lack of knowledge because I didn't know what to do. I was always trying to do way too much. I tried to do a lot and tried to eat a little. And I was hoping that somewhere in that gap, I would see progress. And because I didn't know precisely how to do it in the most efficient way possible, I tried to combat the frustration that I was feeling and the anxiety I was feeling about whether or not I was in the correct deficit and I was doing the right things. And if I was ever going to get there, I was like, okay, well, I know it'll definitely work if I don't eat enough at all. Like if I barely eat anything and I train a fuck ton, I will definitely get there. Like it'll definitely work. So to kind of reassure myself, I created this big gap between all the training I did and all the food that I ate. So one was really low and the other was really high. And I was like, somewhere in there, I got to be making progress. But had I known how to correctly do it, I could have brought them closer together so I didn't suffer so fucking much. And I would get less sleep because I would think that I needed to be up at 4 a.m. to be successful. But then at night, because of all the frustration and the stress that I was feeling and all the hunger, I couldn't fall asleep. So like I was up very late and I was up very early and I didn't get enough sleep. Like you don't make sound decisions You're not thinking clearly. You have a lot of brain fog. Lack of sleep is literally directly correlated to an increase of the production of the hormone ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone. So naturally, just not getting enough sleep will make you hungrier. Simply getting enough sleep can help regulate those hunger levels that you're battling against when it comes to nutrition. So when it comes to those aspects, I would prioritize them more and give them a lot more importance and significance in the journey, and making sure that I implemented rest days properly so that my body could recover and perform better when I came back to training. What I recommend that you do now is prioritize getting ready for bedtime, getting enough sleep at night, making sure that you implement rest days in between your training if you can. Now, I would honor my body and know that it needs to rest, it needs to be able to recover, it needs to sleep, it needs water, it needs all those things. Now we're going to talk about the practical implementation of things and how I improperly or inefficiently structured my training, cardio, and nutrition, which ultimately slowed me down and made me kind of have to wait a little bit longer to see the progress and the results that I was looking for. Tried to do too much. I tried to do a lot of HIIT and a lot of sprints, and that is great for somebody who likes those things. I want to touch on this really quick. This journey of building your dream physique and getting yourself out of whatever the hell you're stuck in is already hard enough. We don't need to make it harder by programming things that we don't like, whether it's in training or nutrition. Again, you shouldn't have to force yourself to eat a certain kind of food because you think that's what you need to eat to be on this journey. We want to make this as easy and as efficient as possible, because the easier it is for you to stick to because you enjoy it, more likely you're going to be able to build this physique and keep it. When it came to cardio, like I said, my favorite form of cardio is long distance running. And I have a lot of clients that say that they don't want to do this crazy HIIT stuff or don't want to have to run or do anything like that. There are a million ways to go about getting you where you want to be. There are different points of leverage that we have when getting you to where you want to be. Cardio is not the only one. There's not a certain form of cardio that you must do to get the results that you want. Cardio is used to stimulate fat loss and promote heart health, yes, but it's not the only thing that we have. Cardio goes hand in hand with nutrition as well as training. All those three things will give us the leverage that we need to get you where you want to go. If you don't like doing HIIT cardio, then don't do HIIT cardio. Do the cardio that you enjoy and then adjust your nutrition and your training accordingly so that you still get where you need to go. They're all pieces of a puzzle, and as long as they are all in synergy together, you will get where you need to go. A lot of the times, clients will tell me that they don't want to have to do HIIT cardio, or they get on the phone and they're scared that I'm going to make them freaking do this intense ass cardio and all this shit. You want to have a step goal. If you like to ride your bike, if you like to swim, if you like to run 10 miles a fucking day, whatever, maybe you like to walk on the treadmill, whatever it is. Because I was so frustrated with my physique, I focused a lot on cardio because I really, really wanted to lose fat, that it took away from all the energy I could have been putting towards training, which when you put this into perspective, at the beginning of your fitness journey, you do not have a lot of muscle mass. So if you're going to sit here and focus on doing cardio to burn off all this fat, you're burning off all this fat for what? What are you showing? There is nothing there. There is nothing under there. The main thing you're going to want to prioritize, not even just at the beginning of your fitness journey, but at all times, is building that muscle mass. When you build that muscle mass, you'll be able to achieve that lean, toned physique. When you are obsessed and focused on getting skinnier and losing fat, you end up looking skinny fat, or you end up just looking like shit because you put way too much energy into cardio and not enough attention to your training. Again, that was also because of lack of knowledge. I didn't know how much cardio to do, especially because I didn't know what to do with my nutrition. So I didn't know that they went hand in hand together. So it was all just random shit. And because I was unsure, I was just well, let me do a fuck ton. I was so unsure that I would be fuck it. Let me just do way more than I fucking need to, because that'll guarantee that I'm going to get where I need to go. But honestly, it did the adverse, and it made it hard for me to stick to, and it made me very tired. And it ultimately made it hard for me to push when it came to training because I was so obsessed with cardio. When it came to training, I was very young, so I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. So I tried to do every single thing. When I tell you my upper body day was 20 exercises, and I tried to do every single exercise no demand because I literally didn't know what to pick. I was in the gym for forever. This is so inefficient. And I was so frustrated because you can imagine why I wasn't making progress taking that approach. I would have to skip workouts or miss out on other things because I was in there for so long because I didn't know what the fuck to do and my structure sucked. I would get complacent. I didn't have very good training intensity at first. Didn't know how to push myself to failure. Wasn't intentional with my sets. I would walk in every single time and pick the same weight. Wouldn't even track my weights. I would just go there, do some curls, put it down, come back the next week, same curls, same reps. No, rest times, it was either 10 minutes or it was 30 seconds. Didn't keep track of that. There was literally no structure. It was just random shit. I would walk in the door and be what the fuck am I doing today? I made a video about this, but again, just having a simple basic plan is better than just walking in there and kind of not knowing what the fuck's going on. Being aware of training intensity, it is hard to build muscle. A lot of you guys think that you're going to pick up a dumbbell and become Dwayne the fucking Rock Johnson. Promise you you're not. It's intentional ass shit. You don't accidentally get there. So let me tell you that lean toned physique you're trying to build is not going to be made with going light. You know what I mean? Even if you don't want to be a bodybuilder, building that lean muscle mass is still difficult. Training intensity still has to be at the forefront. The lack of structure just basically made every single day I walked into the gym day one. So I'd go to the gym every single day for like, let's say a year. I'm going to the gym every single day with no structure, no plan, picking up the same weight, no knowledge of training intensity, didn't know what the hell I was doing. Essentially, that whole year, every day I showed up was day one. Those days couldn't compound on top of each other because I wasn't stacking them. They were almost just lined up next to each other in parallel because I wasn't increasing my weight or increasing my reps or improving my form. I was doing way too damn much that I couldn't be intentional with my reps and sets just because there was so much fucking volume. My rest times were so inconsistent that when I did start tracking the weights, at least in my notes app, I didn't know if maybe I was able to lift more because I took 5 minutes this time and the last time I took 30 seconds, or if I was actually building muscle. I had no fucking idea. If you resonate with anything that I just discussed when it comes to the practical implementation of training and cardio, what I would recommend that you do now is come up with a plan when it comes to your training. Figure out what muscle groups you want to hit on what days, what exercises you're going to do for them, how many reps, how many sets, what your rest times are going to be like, and then follow that every single day, or not every single day, follow that same structure every single week. That way you can structure as many metrics as you can so you know when you are improving in either form or you're getting more weight up or you're getting more rest, you know that it's due to building muscle and not one of those other factors that you changed. So if your shoulder press improves from 45 pounds to 50 pounds, you know that it's because you're building muscle and not because you rested a little bit longer, or because you used a different machine, or because you switched up your routine. And then when it comes to cardio, implementing forms of cardio that you like, the cardio that you enjoy, something that is fun to you. Again, this isn't going to be easy. It's going to be hard things. I wouldn't necessarily say I love doing cardio, but I'm going to choose the option that I like. When it came to nutrition, all those other factors that I discussed in this entire video amounted to a lot of frustration. So it made me want to be in an insane deficit because of all the insecurity and the lack of confidence I had and the negative relationship I had with all the aspects pertaining to my fitness journey. I naturally threw myself into that huge deficit, mainly because I was impatient, but also because I wanted to punish myself in a way because I was so unhappy with where I was in life and my fitness journey and all that stuff. So it was used as a form of punishment as well as me being impatient. So with that deficit, I didn't focus on what I filled it with. I just focused on that number. I tried my best to hit my protein goal, but again, carbs and fats were out of whack. Like I used to tend to neglect a lot of fat sources because, naturally they're higher in calorie because of the fact that fat carries more calorie per gram, about 9 calories per 1 gram of fat, whereas carbs and proteins are 4. So because I was so restrictive, obsessed with being in a deficit, and only worried about hitting that caloric number, naturally I strayed away from them, which affected my energy levels and ultimately probably my hormone function as well. So I kind of was driving my body into the ground with that because of my lack of knowledge and also because of my frustration and impatience. The thing that was an issue with my practical implementation was my meal timing. I didn't understand. I didn't even focus on the macros. I only focused on the caloric deficit. So naturally, I didn't even understand what each macronutrient did to the body or how it affected the body or what it was used for. So my meal timing and structure was off. I would just eat whatever the fuck, whenever the fuck. And again, you can see why that would affect things like my energy levels and my performance in the gym, my mood, all that kind of stuff. And that was ultimately making the journey harder for me. Had I structured it properly and utilized those nutrients to my advantage to increase energy levels, promote muscle growth, promote rest and recovery, and also improve my mood, it would have been a lot easier for me to get where I needed to go. Fortunately, due to my lack of knowledge, it caused a lot of suffering that I had to go through, which slowed me down. Like I mentioned, I focused solely on that caloric number, so it wasn't very detailed, it was very broad. For example, it was 1,800 calories of whatever the fuck every single day. Tried my best to get a relatively similar amount of protein every single day, but again, there was absolutely no structure. I have a plan as to what I was going to eat, so naturally, it was hard for me to stay on track because I didn't have a plan. I wake up and I'd be like, okay, I don't know how I'm gonna hit my protein goal, so I'm just gonna go off track. I don't know what I'm supposed to eat today, so I don't know how I'm gonna hit these calories, so I'm just gonna go off track, right? Because I didn't have a plan or any sort of structure and it was way too broad, it was hard for me to adhere to it because it was so much extra thought I had to put into it every single day. Whereas if I would have just sat down, figured it out, built some structure, built a plan, and followed it every single day, I wouldn't have to wake up and think about, oh, how am I gonna hit my protein, carbs, and fats today? There'd already be a structure in place with it because I sat down and took the time to actually structure it. So when it comes to nutrition, what I do now for myself and for my clients is making sure we focus on all the macronutrients that we're eating, making sure that, of course, we're in a deficit, but not being super hyper fixated on that number, but rather the reason as to why we're having them, when they're programmed, so that we can make sure that they're programmed at the right times to promote better performance in the gym, high energy levels when we need them throughout the day. What I would have done better back then, and hopefully something that you can do now, is structuring your training and nutrition differently. A couple things that I would implement would be different meal plans on your training and your rest days, as well as making sure that your meal plan has some structure to it, whether it be a number of macros, not just a caloric deficit, but if you want to just go one step below that and do a number of macros. If you want to get even more structured, you can implement a meal plan. And then focus on meal timing as well, making sure that I was properly fueled to perform in the gym by eating some carbs and protein pre-workout, and then allowing myself enough time to digest them so that I had enough energy to perform well in the gym. Then just making sure post-workout I get enough carbs and protein to replenish my energy levels as well as promote muscle growth. I would probably structure maybe a less fattier protein post-workout because fats tend to digest a little bit slower and they make you a little bit lethargic. So if I'm working out in the morning, after my workout, I'm not going to want to have a very high fat meal because number one, it takes longer to digest. And ideally, you would want that protein to get into your system as fast as possible so that you can stimulate muscle growth and focus on recovery. The fat tends to make me a little bit tired. So now I'm inconvenienced during the day because I'm struggling with energy levels because I had this really high fat meal. So now I need to take a nap when I have things to do in the day. It's all about being strategic with things and also understanding the way that your body digests things and the way that these macronutrients affect your body. And again, fats digest a little bit longer. They'll keep you fuller longer. And in a deficit, that's very beneficial because it would be annoying as hell to wake up in the middle of the night hungry. And again, you're interrupting your sleep pattern, which we can kind of tie back to that point in the video where I talked about how important sleep is and how it can actually really affect you. Those are all the things I fucked up at the beginning of my fitness journey. I tried my best to go in detail into every single one of them. If you have any questions or want further detail about any of these aspects here on the screen or anything in general, go ahead and drop them in the comments down below, or you can message me on Instagram. If you guys want to work with me one-to-one to build your dream physique, I will leave the application in the description of this video. If you're a good fit and there are spots available, I'll personally reach out to you to see if you'd be a good fit. And if you want to see more of me daily, I will link my Instagram in the description down below. I post there often and I interact with you guys a lot more. I answer all my DM. I really hope this video helped you guys. A lot of the content that I make on YouTube and Instagram is directed at younger me because these are things that I wish I would have heard. I hope this video will help you navigate your fitness journey better, encourage you to keep going, and help you navigate through that frustration. If there's anything else that I can do to help you, please drop it in the comments down below or message me on Instagram. As always, remember to do hard shit and be confident. The life that you're looking for isn't the shit that you avoid. I love y'all so much. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see y'all in the next one.